I'm going to ask you something really simple. Why do you keep doing things that you already know aren't the best things for you to do? Now, I'm not talking about mistakes that you make. I'm talking about patterns that keep repeating themselves over and over again. You know it's a bad idea, and yet you still do it. It's like texting the person or going back to the situation, spending the money that you don't have, or blowing up an entire relationship. Why is it that you do the same things as if you don't have the knowledge that you really have and you ignore the understanding that your knowledge provides? Why is it you know better but yet keep doing the same stupid things? See, it's not a knowledge problem, it's a control problem. I'm going to give you a model just to keep things simple. You have two systems running inside you at all times. One is fast, emotional, and very reactive, and the other is slow, deliberate, and very controlled. The second system is your prefrontal cortex. That is the one that keeps you alive and betters your life as you go. It's your center of reasoning. This is the place where everything that is logical happens. And it's supposed to be the place that's in charge of your life. Your decision making, impulse control, long term thinking, your emotional and your identity consistency. It's the part of you that says, we're not doing that, at least not anymore. See, if that part of your life is strong, then your life stabilizes. But if it's weak or even offline, you don't have control. Instead, you have cycles. You ever had that moment where you're doing the thing and you know you shouldn't be doing that thing, but yet you don't stop? See, that's not you being stupid. That's your control system not being in charge, at least in that moment. It's your rational brain checking out and your impulses taking over. Your brain didn't fail to understand the problem, it just failed to govern your actions. If you grew up in chaos, grew up without consistency, if you grew up with emotional volatility, your brain didn't optimize for control, it optimized for your survival. So now you're left in this place where living life as an adult, you have a system that was built to react, not regulate. And you're calling that your personality. Oh, I'm just this way. This is just how I am. But here's where it gets quite uncomfortable. Even if you're self aware, even if you understand everything that I just said and know it to be true, you still will lose control under the right conditions. But why? In reality, it is simply that control is not constant. Your control is conditional. See, there are reasons and mechanisms, if you will, for why and when control gets cut off. Things like stress. When stress goes up, your control goes down. This isn't a metaphor. These are mechanics. You shift from taking power away from your rational brain, your prefrontal cortex, your reasoning center, the place that's supposed to govern your actions in a responsible way. You shift that power from there into survival mechanisms, areas where your brain goes, not thinking on the long term. In fact, it's rarely even logical, and it damn sure is not measured. There's no calculation in this point. Instead, it's fast. It's the first thing that comes to your brain. It's reactive to whatever just acted upon you. It's efficient for survival You're incapable of rising even to your own standards when you're under extreme stress. All the training and conditioning in the world is just dropped. It might as well be as if it never existed in the first place. See, internally, your body produces an extreme amount of cortisol and it mixes it with adrenaline. It's meant to put you into fight or flight. It's no wonder that you reduce your processing power and just react in the moment. Your brain isn't asking, what's the best decision? Instead, it's asking, what gets me through this the fastest? This is what leads to you suddenly snapping at people. This is what says or has you saying things that you will regret. Defaults you to old habits and old patterns, the tried and true. Because you survived it the first time, you survived it the second, you'll lean on it again to survive it this time as well. You abandon all strategies for long term planning. That's why most people destroy all their progress and self sabotage when they're under pressure. This is not a personality issue, it's a life under stress issue. You live in situations where you reduce your amount of control. How many of your worst decisions happened in a moment where you were extremely stressed? Another avenue that will tear down your ability to rationally think your way through situations, that rob your prefrontal cortex from its innate ability to help you navigate your life responsibly, is an addiction. See, where stress stops and shuts down your reasoning ability, addiction bypasses it completely. And I'm not just talking about drugs, I mean your addiction to people, your addiction to attention, your addiction and need for validation from some outside source to tell you that you're okay, your addiction to intimate moments, or maybe your addiction to spending money, to feel like you're capable of purchasing things that your bank account says otherwise. All of this is a source of chaos or pattern interruption into your life. How often is addiction just something that stimulates you outside of reality? See, addiction will rewrite your priority. Your brain will flag something as this matters more than everything else right now. So your processing of things changes. Normally, you would think, then decide, then act. But addiction is urge, act, and then explain. I'll say that one again. Normally, you think, then you decide, and then you act. But in moments of addiction, you bypass all of that and go from urge straight into action and then try to explain why you just did what you just did. Addiction doesn't ask for permission, it acts first, and then you try to explain later. There's mechanics that are involved in this process. It's the cue, and then it's craving, then it's urgency, then action, and then rationalization. Again, it's the cue, then comes the craving, then comes the urgency, then the action, and then the explanation or rationalization of what just happened. The prefrontal cortex, your reasoning capacity, the thing that's supposed to govern your rational behavior, does not lead in this process. It's subverted. It shows up after, trying to clean up the mess that's been made. See, people will feel out of control in these moments, and that's because they are. It's not morality, it's mechanical. That's why you'll hear things like, I don't know why I did that. It's like I wasn't in charge. See, people aren't lying when they say this, even though we often tell them they're lying to themselves. I don't think we understand just how true that statement is. How often have you seen a path very clearly only to have your own behavior subvert you. Then all you can do afterwards is explain it as some form of relapse. How often have you picked up your phone and sent that text that you know you shouldn't have sent, only to explain it afterwards of, I'm just confused, I'm traumatized, I'm trauma bound? How often have you set your mind to do something positive only to go back and binge on the old things as if they were the only thing ever to make you happy? How often have you found yourself just simply repeating the same toxic cycle, expecting a different result, and then rationalizing it away as anything but you being insane, knowing that the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results? This isn't just a lack of discipline, guys. This is your system being hijacked. What is something in your life that doesn't feel optional, even though you know that it should be optional? What is something in your life that you can identify that go, I feel like my agency has been taken from me concerning this thing? Now, we've talked about stress and how it can rob you and your prefrontal cortex and your rational brain from being able to lead properly in life. We've talked about your addiction and your habits that keep recurring and keep taking your agency, subverting the whole process of rationalization all around. But let's talk about the one that most of you actually live in. See, if you thought this was heavy up until this point, this is the one that's actually going to kick you in your ass, as it should. That is emotion. See, when emotion spikes high enough, your control system gets completely fucking replaced. It's not something where stress will shut down. It's not something where addiction will bypass. It's something that just completely takes over and says, fuck rationality. This is how I feel. And that is where most of you live. What's happening is your logic completely disappears. It's almost like you can't keep up. Like your feelings and your emotional system fires faster than regulation of your rational mind can even possibly hope to keep up. It's funny that your mouth will run, but nowhere near as fast as your brain thinks. But yet your brain cannot think at the intensity that your emotions feel. But yet, an outward proof of stability is, can this person actually listen more than they talk? It's no wonder you go to the other end of that chain and you let your emotions lead, that you can control what the fuck you do. The stronger the feeling, the less say your rational mind gets. Emotions spike, your limbic system in your brain activates. Your prefrontal cortex is delayed. Then you act, and then you fucking regret. This is what leads to your rage reactions. This is what leads to your impulsive breakups. This is where your patterns show up differently than even you want to admit. But yet, when I say them, you see them. Not all loss of control looks chaotic. Sometimes it can look cold, fast, and very calculated. It's still some other mechanism taking advantage of a weakened prefrontal cortex. It's some other system subverting the logical and rational thought processes that everybody knows should govern our lives. Do you lose control more in anger, in fear, or in attachment? It's one of those three. Which one governs you more? What is your biggest trigger to lead you to a place where you do not behave in a way that is to your best interest? Is it in moments of anger? Is it when you're terrified or afraid? Or is it when you're attached to something and you don't know if it's going to stay attached? There are three primary ways that your system of control, your prefrontal cortex, that part of your brain that is reasoning and rationalization, there are three main ways that it gets thrown off. And we've discussed them. It's stress. Stress shuts the shit down. There's addiction. Addiction subverts it completely, taking it down a different path that leads to another end that you then have to justify. And then there's your emotional contagion. The one that is so intense your brain shuts the fuck off and gets completely replaced by how you feel. And the only way you can justify that one, which affects more of you than anything else, the only way you can justify that one is talking about how your feelings are your truth, which has got to be the biggest cop out I've ever seen. In reality, if you're honest, your feelings and being led by such have only ever gotten you hurt. I don't say fuck you. I say fuck your feelings because I'm on the outside watching you make all the mistakes in your life based on them. What if I told you there's a way for you to reclaim control? What if I told you that not motivations, but there are mechanics for you to actually reclaim control of your life? Your prefrontal cortex, your rational mind, your reasoning capacity can actually be trained, but it doesn't happen in comfort. What if I told you that you could reclaim, you could train your reasoning skills, but it's going to take pain and loss and you feeling like you don't know who the fuck you are for that moment to come where you can make that difference? Your ability to grow does not come from your comfort. Your ability to grow comes from you being activated by pain, by things that hurt you once you got surprised and realized you were being irrational. It comes from you acknowledging your own accountability for you being in the place that got you hurt in the first place, no matter what that was. Pain will make you pause before you act. Pain will give you situations that you can recognize the second time that make you delay your impulsive reaction. Pain will increase your awareness even under pressure because there's real stakes in the game now. You remember how the mistake felt. And this, my friends, can be repeated even under stress. See, nobody's going to give you a pat on the back and tell you you did a good job when you're in control in calm circumstances. It doesn't happen. Nobody's impressed. Even you're not impressed by your own ability to stay calm in a situation that was already calm. You prove your abilities when everything has gone to shit, and yet you still know how to react in an upright way. But often you don't. And 9 times out of 10, it's because of the way you feel. I want to remind you of something very, very important. And if you get nothing out of this, get this part. You're not broken. But if you never get a hold and control of your rational brain and let it lead, you will continue to live just like you are now. You're not broken, but it doesn't mean that nothing's wrong. And unless you let your mind, the rational part of your brain that can make sense of facts and ignore your fucking feelings, you will continue to live life exactly like you did that led you here.